Coming to you from the TheEoNProject studios, overlooking the vast, pristine acreage of Primrose Village. Greetings from this hidden gem of the Blackstone Valley. You're listening to Experts of Nothing with Mike and Jay. Well, greetings once again here on the TheEoNProject. And you know, last week we had a special guest via the World Wide Web. That would be Brent from Indiana. As we all know, because Mike was absent last week. He had some issues that he had to take part in and take care of, so to speak. So today, we have another very special guest, an in-studio guest, if you will. One of the most popular people that you would ever hear on the airwaves today is here today. So I'm very excited about this. And he requires no introduction, so here he comes. Go ahead, say hi.
Hi.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Mike is back.
Hi, everybody.
Oh,
that was you threw me for a loop. I didn't know what you were doing there.
You thought somebody was going to come out of the back?
I thought somebody was here and they were going to ambush me.
So how are you?
I'm doing great. Happy to be back. I want to thank Brent for his wonderful performance in my stead. Am I worried that my position here on the program is going to be eliminated? No, I am not worried about that. Obviously, wonderful effort put forth by Brent. There were some issues, with his performance, I should say. A lot of things that he could work on.
Well, you know, he's
not a polished professional.
No, not like us. Like he doesn't have years and years of speaking into a microphone.
I love the effort, though.
No, it's good.
Good effort. Thanks, Brent. But I'm not worried about you.
You don't think he's going to take over?
Nah, I'm okay. I think I'm all right.
Oh, well, that's good.
Well, it's good to be back. You know, the weather is turning. It's beautiful outside. The weather is it's becoming warmer. All the snowpack is melting away.
It's finally melting. It's warm today. It's going to be in the 50s.
Yes.
And for us here in the great Northeast, that is tropical-like weather.
Tropical weather. You know, actually, speaking of warm weather and hot and cold.
Yes.
On the way over here to the Palatial Studios, I came up with a reasonable argument against everyone's belief about the afterlife in the last 5 minutes.
You just thought of that on your way
Just thought of it on the way over. You want to hear something?
I'm riveted.
Okay. So the common conception of heaven and hell is that hell is incredibly hot, right?
Sure.
Flames. It's like a burning pit.
It's flaming.
Flaming.
Yes.
It's a pit of burning
misery.
Despair.
Yes.
Wouldn't that stand to reason that the exact opposite, heaven would be freezing cold? So like heaven would be Antarctica.
No.
Yeah.
No. They make it pleasant.
No. Then
it's
what's
70
cold?
degrees all day, every day.
Then what's cold? You know what's 70 degrees every day is San Diego.
Yeah.
Beautiful San Diego, California.
Yeah, well, it's California. That's the problem.
Yeah, it's in California. That's the only downside. But yeah, I think heaven would be really cold.
Well, I don't know.
There's like polar bears wandering around.
That doesn't sound like it would be any place I'd want to go.
No, but if hell is hot, then heaven has got to be cold. So you have to
saying,
follow along.
I got you. So the opposites.
Opposite.
You're playing the opposite.
Opposite game.
I got you. So like the Tao Chi or the yin and yang, if you will. Gotcha.
So today's program, we're going to tease the topic.
Exciting program.
We're going to talk about something that's it's been part of our lives for a very long time.
Absolutely.
And that's because, to put it in a nutshell, we're going to talk about the music industry and hidden messages, backwards messages, things that are in music that may not appear on the surface and you might not know about.
That's right. And how it relates to Satanism.
That's right.
And the occult.
And the reason that this topic is near and dear to our hearts is because, and I don't know if we're going to talk about it later, I didn't prepare any notes specifically about it, but Jason and I, a lot of people know, we've been friends for a very long time. And we went to Catholic school as youngsters.
As we did.
Yes. And when we were in middle school, they used to call it, they don't call it junior high anymore.
It's not.
They call it middle school.
The grades changed here.
We used to call it junior high.
Right, because it was 7, 8, 9. Now it's no longer 7, 8,
it's middle. It's 6, 7, 8.
That's right.
It's middle school.
Yes.
In any case, so we had a guy come in to our middle school class and talk about Satanism and the music industry and why rock and roll music, especially metal music, was bad. You know, what was wrong with it and everything like that. And he had this elaborate presentation.
Actually, the presentation was really good.
It was a very well done. And I remember, and this was, 30 years ago?
Yeah.
And I remember it very, very vividly. And he broke down, and we're going to get into some of the specific bands that he spoke about. And his name was Joe Vieira.
Oh, you do remember his name. I was going to ask you that.
His name was Joe Vieira. I don't know what specifically he had as far as music industry experience or what kind of role he had in the music business, but supposedly he had all sorts of connections and he knew everyone in the music business.
That's right.
And his vocation in life was now to go around and teach how the devil was in all the music. And when you first started listening, and we were as young people, 13, 14 at the time, and I remember thinking, initially, when he started talking about these things, this is amazing. This is incredible. I can't believe this music is got the devil in it and everything. But by the end of his presentation, you started thinking the guy was an absolute nut bar, and he was making this crap up as you go because he started reaching for things. And
That's right.
Anyway, so we're going to get into that.
Yeah, we will get into that, and we'll talk more about that later, and we'll talk more about his presentation and kind of why he was there and why we had that belief system back then when we were going to Catholic school. But in the meantime, before we do that, I have to tell you about a great new food invention that I came up with.
Oh, I'd love to hear about it.
So I'm putting this out there to the masses, and I expect everyone to try it, and don't anybody steal my idea because it's being recorded.
Well, then why are you putting it out
Well,
there?
because I want people to know about it. And I want people to, when it becomes popular, I want people to understand that I'm the one that invented it.
So keep in mind that you did a copyright entry.
That's right.
Right now. So don't even try to copy it.
That's right.
It's on its way to the patent
So
office.
we all, I think, a good majority of the people enjoy meatballs.
Oh, I love meatballs. I
love-
make my own meatballs.
I do too. I love making meatballs. They're such a versatile food.
Yeah.
They're good for any occasion.
Yep.
You can make them with the red sauce. You can make them with the gravy, the white and brown gravy.
Like the Swedish variety.
That's right. You can make them in. You can put them in a soup.
They could be appetizers or a main dish.
Stick a little toothpick in them. You can eat them that way.
Yep. They could be on sandwiches.
You can put different things in them. You can make turkey balls. You can do all kinds of
All
stuff.
sorts of ball meats.
So I had the great idea a few weeks ago to create the two greatest loves of food in my life. One being meatballs, the other being sloppy joes.
Really?
So here's what
Sloppy
you do.
Joes,
You make your
which is basically a deconstructed meatball.
That's right. You take your meatball, you make your meatball like you normally would, but you mix in a little bit of the liquid sloppy joe mix.
Okay, like manwich?
That's
like
right.
manwich?
The manwich. I'll plug manwich because it's delicious.
Manwich is delicious.
You mix that in with your meatball mix. You create the sphere of meat, and you cook it as you would cook it. So for example,
You just put it into the ingredients.
this would be a good crock pot meal.
Yeah, sure.
So you stick your sloppy joe infused meatballs into the crock pot, and then you pour more sloppy joe mix on top as a sauce, and you let it slow cook all day long.
Okay.
It is delicious, and I will say I'm copywriting the name now. We're gonna call it Sloppy Balls,
Sloppy balls.
and they are absolutely delicious. So go out there today.
You know what? I really want to wrap my lips around one of your sloppy balls.
Yes, you do.
I think that would be a good day.
You do, and I'm telling you, it's gonna be the greatest meat experience of your life.
Well, you know what? Recently, we had another ball food experience on the show.
right.
We had the rum balls from Addicted Rum Balls in Texas from Jen.
Which reminds me, I got to put another order in.
Well, those were good.
Oh, delicious.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? I had distributed some to some other folk around that same time, and they all had nothing but good things to say about Jen and her addicted balls.
Oh, it's fun to say that word.
It is fun.
Okay.
Anyway, should we jump into the topic today?
Let's jump into it. So we're going to talk a little bit about hidden messages in rock and roll, but why are they there? And the main component of this, or the conspiracy,
Or if they're there at all.
right? Or the conspiracy would be that it's these bands are influenced by Satan and Satanism.
Yes.
And they're trying to put secret messages on their album covers and in their music to influence young minds to turning to the forces of evil.
Right.
That's right.
So we all love music, and music is obviously a big part of a lot of people's lives, but especially young people for some reason. And I think it's because music is an influence to young people, and young people find kindred spirits within the music. So like and I think most people have that experience, especially as teenagers. You know, you find a genre of music that you enjoy or that resonates with you, and that it kind of stays with you for the rest of your life. And you find that maybe the lyrics of these songs, have some sort of meaning in your life. People do that. That has never happened to me.
Okay.
I've never had a spiritual connection with any.
No.
Any.
Some people take it a little too
They
far.
do, and they think, oh, this guy speaks to me. But music. You're a musician, and Brent's a musician, and we've had lots of musicians on the program. And music to me, and you please correct me if I'm wrong, it's a very personal thing when you're creating music. I don't create music, so I'm not an expert, but I know that when people create music, they write songs and they write lyrics to songs. That's their way to get their emotions out.
Right.
They're not necessarily meaning you to have the same type of emotion.
Exactly.
That's their emotion.
That's what they're thinking and feeling in the moment. And it's funny you mentioned that, because that goes right along the same lines. And just a quick aside. So the famous Police song, "Every Breath You Take," right? Mm-hmm. It goes down as one of the greatest love songs of all time. People play it at their weddings.
Isn't that a stalking song?
It is. It's 100% a stalking song. And Sting later admitted it years later
Really?
that it was a breakup, and he left his wife or her friend or something like that, and he was stalking her, or she was stalking him, or something along those lines. And that's what the song is about. It's a creepy, stalky song.
Well, doing the research for this program that we're going to talk about today, the hidden messages and backwards messages and Satanism, stuff like that. But, you read a lot about music lyrics and how they're formulated. And to me, it's fascinating to read where these lyrics, what they mean to the person who wrote them.
Right.
So, like, you could be operating the assumption for years that a song is about a certain thing, and then you hear the artist actually who wrote it, and he'll say it's not that at all. It's about this, which is completely different. To me, that's hilarious.
Right.
Because people invest all this time into it.
So I think my fascination with the hidden messages in music, it stems back to one of my, a period in your life where you're the most influential, which would be your teenage years. And as Mike had stated, we saw Mr. Vieira and his satanic presentation, but at the same time, I myself and a lot of my friends were discovering music, and we were listening to actual records, and we were, analyzing every single album cover that you could come across to try to find hidden messages in that.
Yes. But I don't even know if this is because do you buy music anymore? Have you actually purchased music?
Not recently.
I haven't purchased music in years, but when you did purchase music, pardon me, on cassette tape or album, as you said before, they used to include the lyrics in the liner notes for a lot of them.
Correct.
And you used to be able to read the lyrics there. I don't know if they do that anymore, or some bands did it and some bands didn't. I always liked it to have the lyrics.
Sure.
You can read along with it. But like you said, so we're going to get into some of the bands, especially in the 1970s and 80s. That's kind of the era that we're going to focus on. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit about today. And there are still supposedly messages in music, and but it's not nearly as prevalent or as top of mind, if you will, of people who are looking into this sort of thing as it was in the 70s and 80s.
Right. I think one of a couple of the early bands that started this, satanic imagery in music and lyrics was a band called Coven and a band called British Black Widow.
Ooh.
Have you heard of them?
No. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so they employed imagery of Satanism and witchcraft in their early works. And obviously they referred to Satan, also appeared in their lyrics and on their album covers and things like that. So I think they were the first two bands that really started doing this sort of thing.
When was that? What time frame was
that? Was like the 60s and 70s.
Oh, okay.
Late 60s,
so early.
early
So that would have been early.
Yeah.
Because before that, there was no overtly satanic music or witchcraft related music or anything like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about in a little bit about the Beatles and their early hidden messages, but it didn't really have anything to do with Satanism.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about one that it's actually pretty famous if you start looking into famous subliminal messages and backwards. And by subliminal, we mean messages that are in music that are not overtly on there. So like you have to listen to it either backwards or it's very low or a hidden track, stuff like that. But one of the bands that shows up frequently and actually went on to some litigation would be Judas Priest. Are you familiar with Judas Priest?
Oh yeah, Rob Halford.
Rob Halford.
He's a leather-wearing screamer.
He is.
Yeah.
So Judas Priest was huge back in the 80s. You weren't a legit metal guy unless you were a Judas Priest guy back in the 80s. And they frequently show up, as I said, when we're discussing metal bands specifically that have hidden messages of songs. In fact, we're going to flash back to 1985. Remember that year? What were you doing in 1985?
Oh, man, I was getting into Judas Priest.
Yeah.
Real good.
So in 1985, two teenagers in Nevada were drinking and listening to Judas Priest albums. That sounds like a fun thing to do.
It does sound like fun in 85.
Yeah, nothing much else to do. And when they suddenly decided that they needed to kill themselves. That was just something that came up.
They made a pact to do this?
Yeah, so they went into a church playground, and they each shot themselves in the head with a shotgun.
Okay.
One died instantly. One managed to blow off most of his face, but didn't die.
Well, he misfired.
Yeah, he probably flinched at the last moment or something like that and blew off his face, but he still lived.
Sure.
So one died, one had no face. But later, because he didn't die, he was able to give an accounting of why they did what they did, which is actually kind of interesting to this case. Mm-hmm. So supposedly, he stated that they were mesmerized by alcohol and Judas Priest, both. Okay? So specifically the song Beyond the Realms of Death they were listening to.
Okay.
When they supposedly received messages to kill themselves. So they were in the middle of listening to this marathon spree of albums when suddenly they both got the message at the same time, you need to kill yourselves immediately, so they go out and they do this. The guy, it's actually interesting to note, the guy who blew his face off but lived, he actually became a born-again Christian right after that, but then devolved into drugs and ended up dying of a drug overdose just a few years after. So
Okay.
he didn't really turn his life around as much as we probably would have hoped. So the families of the deceased people, these two guys, sued the band, stating that supposedly there were hidden messages in their songs, and that these songs, and obviously the legal precedent for this case would be they were saying that this was not protected free speech because it was not it was words that you could hear.
Right, it was not overtly in your face that
That's
you could
right.
understand and
So it
decipher
wouldn't
for
be,
yourself.
Right, so it wouldn't be protected free speech. So a lawyer for the family, for the dead guys, added, Judas Priest and CBS pander this stuff to alienated teenagers. This is a quote from this guy. It's actually pretty interesting. The members of the chess club, the math and science majors don't listen to this stuff. It's the dropouts, the drug and alcohol abusers. So our argument is you have a duty to be more cautious when you're dealing with this population susceptible to this stuff.
It's very stereotypical.
Sure it is. So only drug dealers or drug users and alcoholics and losers listen to metal. This was actual court case
Sure.
from
I
the
believe
80s.
it. I believe it.
You know, you wouldn't hear that today.
Right.
But that's pretty interesting. So this case went to trial, and it went on for quite some time. And Judas Priest had to wear suits and everything, and they had to take their leather studded garments off
yeah.
and put suits on and actually go into court every day.
Yep.
Ultimately, the judge decided that the songs did in fact contain hidden messages, but they were only audible when electronically isolated. He also noted that science had not proven that the human mind can even decipher such messages or that they would have any type of influence on someone's behavior.
Right.
So the judge ruled that yes, there are messages, but no, they couldn't influence. Well, it's not been proven that they can influence behavior. So the band, it's interesting to note, did deny that they put any messages. So they never admitted that they did it at all.
Right.
As a matter of fact, and this is a good point, the band's manager said that his clients never placed any such messages in their music. And if they did, they would have put messages that said, buy 7 copies of this. Yeah, they wouldn't have said kill yourself,
right,
because
exactly.
why would they want their fans to kill themselves?
That's right. You know, they want to be making money. That's the whole point of what they're doing.
So the case ended up being dismissed.
Okay.
So that was an interesting, this is probably one of the first times that, if not the first time, that it was actually made public and someone tried to hold a band accountable for using backwards messages.
So it all goes back and stems back to the idea that subliminal messages of any kind can influence the subconsciousness.
Sure.
And companies, advertisers, they do that sort of stuff all the time. Supposedly, movie theaters, during the course of a movie, they'll quickly flash a frame of like the concession stand or like a hot dog or a soda. And you don't notice it. Your conscious mind doesn't notice it, but your subconscious picks it up. And then you get up and you go and you walk to the concession stand and spend $10,000 on a box of Juji fruits.
Well, supposedly they do that in casinos too, where they not only do they pump oxygen into casinos to keep you alert and awake, and so you could stay longer and gamble, but they also put scents in the air that entice you to do certain things, whether it's keep drinking or eat something or gamble or whatever the case may be. You find that scents are a very important subliminal message that you could send somebody as well.
You know, there's a local casino around here, right next door to us.
Yes.
And some of the most degenerate people of all time frequent this casino. I just had to get that out there.
You know, I've been to that casino. My wife and I actually go on occasion, and we're not big,
That's my point.
We're not big gamblers or anything. But you know what's funny to me, and we've had this discussion many times. You've been through casinos, right? And most casinos are mostly slot machines. Now there's table games, you know, that's a big thing, and everybody. Most of the real estate inside of a casino is made up of slot machines, and they're usually busy. You ever see the look on these people's faces when they're at a slot machine?
They sit there like zombies, dude.
Zombies, pressing buttons, not having any fun at all.
Nope.
They're just sitting there like hitting the button. How is that attractive?
They chain smoke. They'll actually soil themselves because they don't want to leave the machine they're on. That actually happens. Anyway.
They must. And these people, they're not like wealthy people.
No.
They're not winning at these machines.
No.
So what, do they just sit there all day and waste their disability check on...
if I put $20 in a machine and lost
I would be sick.
I'd want to climb to the tallest light post in the parking lot and jump off.
In any case. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some other bands from that era.
That's exactly right. You know, there were a whole slew of them. And it's especially, as Mike said, going into the 80s, it became almost in vogue, so to speak, when it came to these particular metal bands. Right. You know, they used the imagery, and it was all, for shock factor, shock value.
Well, once they figured out that it would influence album sales, then everyone tries to start outdoing
Exactly. And they knew that it would piss off the people in the suits and the parents and all that sort of stuff. So, a lot of the bands, going back to the 70s quick, but Black Sabbath obviously used a lot of that imagery. But believe it or not, they were a lot of them were practicing Christians at the time. So they had other reasons why they were using that sort of imagery. Some of the popular bands of the 80s were Slayer, Creator, Sodom, a band called Destruction. We all know Iron Maiden and some of their imagery that they used at the time. Right. Dio.
So you're talking about some of the bands that they used this imagery to sell records.
That's right.
However, and I'm not going to get into this in too much detail, but doing research for this program, and I've known about this, and I actually have some friends. And had some friends back in the day who were into black metal. Are you familiar with black metal?
Oh, yes.
Death metal?
Yes.
So during the 1980s, there were several thrash and death metal bands that started to form the prototype for black metal. This was, and if you've ever listened to black metal, you'll know it's very, very high speed guitar playing and bass drum. I don't know what you would call that. The bass drum line.
Yep.
It's just like that. And then the lead singing consists mostly of guttural screaming and yelling, and you can't make out any of the lyrics. But if you do happen to look at the lyrics, they're rather disturbing.
Sure.
But some of those bands in black metal started off would be Venom, Bathory, Merciful Fate, Hellhammer. That's a good one, Hellhammer, and Celtic Frost.
Yes.
Back in the 90s, actually. It started, the death metal thing started to explode specifically in Norway. The Norwegian death metal bands such as Immortal, Burzum, Dark Throne, Satyricon, and Gorgoroth.
So going back to Merciful Fate for a second.
Yeah.
So their lead singer was a guy he went by the name of King Diamond. And eventually he went out on his own, King Diamond did. But he took it to another level because he actually is a member of the Church of Satan.
Well, that's what I was going to say. And the black metal bands we're not doing it to sell records, so to speak. That was their persona. Like that was, they were true believers.
They lived the lifestyle.
They lived the lifestyle. And as a matter of fact, and I'm not sure if you had much more to talk about those guys, but if you wanted to learn more about the death metal movement, there was a really good documentary made fairly recently, within the last 5 years or so. I can't remember the name of it, unfortunately, but it was a documentary where a filmmaker went behind the scenes and went on tour with these black metal bands throughout Europe. It is a weird freaking world, man, that these guys inhabit. It's not pretend. Like, they believe all this stuff, and they matter of fact, there was a one of the Norwegian bands, and I can't remember the name of it. One of the members killed like two of the other members or something like that, and some sort of sacrifice.
Oh, that's taking it to another level. That's for sure.
That shows committed. He's committed,
Yeah.
But the black metal thing is not really what we're talking about today. This is that they're more overt in their
We're talking more about like mainstream artists that everybody's heard of.
Yeah.
That put these messages in their songs.
But what about? I got one for you. What about even before that? Before the 70s and 80s, was there music that had messages in it? Maybe not even subliminal messages, but the tone of the music or the lyrics of the music were influencing people. And I will tell you this.
Go.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So we're going to go back. We're going to go way back in the day to 1933.
Oh.
What were you doing in 1933?
I was learning how to play the harpsichord, and I was coming up with the idea to make sloppy balls.
Jay's sloppy balls.
Yep.
We're going to go 1933, Vienna. You ever been to Vienna? I've never been to Vienna.
I've had the sausage.
A teenage girl drowned herself while clutching a piece of sheet music. In Budapest, is it Budapest or Budapest?
It's Budapest.
Budapest, where we have borscht. A shopkeeper killed himself and left a note quoting lyrics from the same song.
Oh.
In London, a woman overdosed while listening to a record of the song over and over again.
This is all the same song?
All the same song.
Oh, boy.
What am I talking about? I'm talking about a wonderful piece of
Canon
music
in D.
called Gloomy Sunday. Have you heard of this?
No, but it sounds pretty good. I want to do a metal version of it.
It's actually nicknamed the Hungarian suicide song,
Oh.
called Gloomy Sunday. A piece of music that connected all of these deaths. It's actually been linked to over 100 suicides over the years, including the man who composed it.
Who composed it?
A man by the name of Rezo Seres.
That's his problem.
Yeah. He was living in Budapest.
Isn't that a medication?
Yeah.
Resoserestal?
Seres causes anal leakage.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was a composer. He composed a piece of music inspired by a personal tragedy that had befallen him, and it was linked to a woman who left him. Which, typically, I don't write songs, as I said before, but I think heartbreak drives people to write music and things of that sort. So that's what happened to this guy. So he wrote a piece of music, and later, with the help of a poet friend of his, they added words to it. Some of the words, I'm going to include, so here are the lyrics to The Gloomy Sunday. It's a piece of string music.
I'm going to look it up after we're
well,
done
it's been re-recorded, and I can tell you a little bit about that after.
Okay.
So here are the lyrics to Gloomy Sunday. Gloomy is Sunday, with shadows I spend it all. My heart and I have decided to end it all. Soon there'll be candles and prayers that are sad, I know. Let them not weep, let them know I'm glad to go. Death is no dream, for in death I'm caressing you. With the last breath of my soul, I'll be blessing you. That's not very nice.
So he's basically saying if he kills himself, then he'll
not a
be
big
able to
deal.
be reunited with her.
So the song became very, very popular in Europe, despite the large number of suicides related to it. In fact, the songwriter, it actually became a hit before. This was before radio and top 40 and all this junk, but it became a hit, and it became so popular that the songwriter supposedly went to go reconcile with his lover that had left him, that originally inspired him to. Now that he was successful, tried to get back with her, only to find out that she had committed suicide with the song lyric sheet in her hand. He later jumped out of a window and killed himself.
Now,
well, let me finish up with this,
right.
then you can give your opinion. So the song was actually banned in England for a time, but it was re-recorded over the years. Actually, there's a contemporary recording of this, and I forget what singer did it, but it most successfully in the United States was re-recorded by Billie Holiday, the famous jazz singer, back in the day. So what do you think about all this?
Well, I would have to say that the people that do this, anybody that goes down the road of self-inflicted death,
right,
clearly, obviously has some sort of issue to begin with.
Sure.
So do I believe that they can be influenced by something like that? I believe they can. I mean...
But don't you think that they would have probably done it anyway, or they would have found something else that would have inspired them to do that?
Well, I would agree with you on that. They, obviously they were standing on the precipice of doom, and, maybe just listening to this song was just enough to push them over the edge.
But I don't know that it would... It's not possible for a song to have the ability to influence you to do it. Is what I'm saying. I think that either that thought was with you.
You have issues before that, yeah, of course.
And then maybe you decided that this is that's it. That's the tipping point. I listened to this program.
That's right.
But like you said, it would have been something else.
Like somebody that was really happy all the time. Like
they probably wouldn't do that.
Like Fred Rogers. If he listened to that all the time.
Fred Rogers was an interesting dude. You want to hear a funny story about Fred Rogers?
I do.
Mr.
I love that guy. His voice is so soothing.
This is actually a true story. Right off the top of my head, we weren't planning on this at all. So supposedly back in the day. He was a very unassuming man. Even he was very famous, but he was not, ostentatious about his notoriety and his wealth and everything. And he drove like an older car, and supposedly he used to park his car right outside of his like he had a brownstone type thing. I don't forget what city he lived in, but in any case, someone stole his car one day, and he filed a police report and everything like that, and it was on the news. Mr. Rogers' car was stolen. 2 days later, the car showed back up in front of his house. He went out there to look at it and had a note that said, "If we'd known it was yours, we wouldn't have taken it."
Oh, so look at the influence he has on
people.
See
that? You know what? The car thieves were, this is Mr. Rogers' car. We gotta go bring it back.
So as a child, I really did enjoy Mr. Rogers, but the only thing that I didn't like about it was the land of make-believe.
Yeah, it was scary.
I didn't like that. I don't like any kind of weird... fantastical puppetry thingies.
No, I don't either.
I don't like that. And little creepy things coming out of the trees.
I don't enjoy the little creatures.
I hated that.
Frolicking
I needed him to hurry up and get back to his neighborhood. I didn't like it.
Here's one for you.
Sure.
There's actually a very famous internet rumor. Internet, if it's on the internet, it's true. Yeah. Did you know that? Yeah. Somebody actually told me that once. They can't put it on the internet if it's not true.
Oh, that's true.
Anyway. So supposedly, Mr. Rogers used to wear that long-sleeve sweater because he was covered in tattoos from his service in the military as a sniper.
He was a deadly Marine Corps sniper in Vietnam.
Yeah, actually, he was not in the service at all.
That's not true at all.
Yeah, and he didn't have any tattoos.
And you know what's funny? You mentioned that. I saw somebody posted that on a social media site not too long ago, and they had actually all their facts were wrong. They were talking about Mr. Rogers was a sniper. They talked about Captain Kangaroo received the Medal of Honor on Iwo Jima, which he was in the Marine Corps Reserve, but it was after World War II was over.
I think Lee Marvin was actually at
Lee Marvin was.
Iwo Jima.
It was actually at Guadalcanal, I believe, is where he received his award. But yeah, so I had to correct them, and they weren't happy.
Well,
about
the thing about that is, and this drives me insane. And we're students of history. We do this program, and this is part of our lives. So we can't stand inaccuracies, especially But like you just said, if you point out that something's wrong, you're the bad guy all of a sudden.
Right.
You can't do that.
Like, why can't you just let the story be?
Let it go.
It's a good story. I'm like, it's not real.
Just like the George Washington quotes that go around. If I see one more freaking person post George Washington said this about the Second Amendment, first of all, 99.9% of the stuff that you see online about George Washington is wrong. He didn't say those things.
And you were there,
I would know. I was there.
You were his cabin boy.
I was his manservant.
You were
his body servant.
His chamber pot cleaner.
Chambermaid.
All right, so this is an exciting part of the show because
Yay.
I don't know if many of you remember, but going back several episodes ago, we had I think it was our first sponsor of the program.
Yep.
And it was a business called The Door Store.
The Door Store.
And the proprietor of The Door Store was a gentleman by the name of Frank.
Who ran the business.
He ran the business with his brothers Joe and Stan. And,
very popular.
It was.
Very, very popular business. I get asked about it all the time.
People enjoyed the commercial. They enjoyed the jingle.
Mm-hmm. It gets stuck in your head for a long period
Unfortunately,
of time.
he came on a couple of weeks later, and he had a tragedy at the Door Store because, it's it's comprised entirely of wood, and it caught on fire, and it burned to the ground.
Well, you know what happened?
Yeah.
Is he was adamant that he didn't want any paint on the doors.
That's right.
Somebody put paint on the doors, and then lo and behold, the place burnt down.
That's right.
So it wasn't Frank's fault. It was probably Joe or Stan.
That's right. So we extended to Frank once he recovered from all of that he would be if he went on a new endeavor and a new business, or if he reinvented or reestablished the Door Store, he could come back in and we'd do a new commercial for him. So that's where we're at today. Frank is excited. We're excited that Frank is back in action.
Yeah.
And he has a new endeavor, a new business that he wants to promote. So we're gonna do his commercial here in a minute, and so we're excited to hear it.
Yeah, hope you enjoy.
There we go. Welcome to the main stage, Frank.
Are you in the mood to see beautiful dancers, enjoy an adult beverage, and wrap your lips around a delicious Frankfurter? Then come on down to Frank's Skanks and Frank's Gentlemen's Club and Hot Dog Emporium. We have all manner of dancers for your viewing pleasure. Big ones, skinny, dark, not so dark, oriental, midgets, little peoples. We even got one with a bullet hole in her stomach that you can put your finger in for $5. We also have delicious hot dogs available for purchase, with any topping you can imagine or that we could find lying around. If you enjoy your meats in tubular form, you'll love every inch of our wieners. Mention this ad and you receive a small fry and a lap dance from Small Fry, our diminutive lead dancer.
Visit us on the web at www.frankskanksandfranks.org. This commercial is solely intended for entertainment purposes only. All right, there it was.
It's good to hear his voice again.
It is. So,
nice man.
What a nice guy. It's good that he's out there. He's spreading his wings. He's diversifying his life.
Completely different from the last business.
Completely different. So I hope he has some success with that.
Yeah.
And
I can't see what will go wrong with any of that.
No, not at all. Anyway, so we're going to jump right back in. We're going to get back into, and this is going to be good because I'm going to play some clips of this stuff so you can all hear
it's
it.
An interesting part of the show.
Yeah, so there'll be you'll play a clip. We'll have a little discussion about it. So
that sounds good.
So just backing up a second. So my interest in music goes back to obviously my childhood, but when I really started taking more of an active role was, maybe late elementary school, early junior high. I became good friends with a gentleman who will remain nameless today, but he got me initially into the Beatles and then some other different types of music.
Which was odd for an elementary school student.
That's right.
To be into the Beatles.
Especially, years after the Beatles' heyday, really.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it got me looking into secret messages and secret things on album covers, and in their songs and stuff. And so we're not going to go into specifically.
Well, let me ask you this before you get into that. So were the Beatles considered to be one of the first bands that would have gotten into that sort of thing, and imagery on their album covers? And
I would agree, yeah. And you know, because they came out at that time where, you know, hallucinogens started becoming more and more you know, widely used in music and stuff like that, which influenced them in different ways.
And you know, you're the Beatles expert of the two of us, but isn't it true too that they used a lot of revolutionary techniques in the studio?
That's right.
With their music, as far as just using different sounds and ways of recording music and things like that.
Right. And the beauty of that is that they had the ability to do that at the time because of the fact that they were so popular and they were so financially successful.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to a point where they didn't have to worry about going out on tour, and they could make the albums that they wanted to make.
They could have farted onto an album for an hour and a half and somebody would have bought it.
Exactly. And in addition to that, they had one of the greatest producers of all time, music producers, Sir George Martin, who happened to be, you know, it was like a confluence of certain events. It was like the perfect storm of musical talent and musical production and all that stuff. So he kind of let them and guided them along the way as well. Mm-hmm. But going back to something we talked about on an earlier program, is that there was always that theory that the Paul is dead theory. And I'm not going to get too much into it, but there was the idea that Paul had died in a car crash back in the 60s.
The great Beatles death hoax.
Exactly. And they were trying to cover it up, but they were leaving clues to their fans and all their music and stuff.
Actually, we replayed an episode from from years ago of an interview that we did with Mr. R. Gary Patterson, who is a rock and roll historian.
Right.
Very, very nice man, very knowledgeable, and unfortunately had passed away fairly recently.
Right, but he was an expert on all this. So
Yeah.
one of the first things that you hear when you look this stuff up is, you know, the Beatles' famous song "Strawberry Fields Forever,"
Strawberry Fields,
which is a John Lennon song, and it's a great song. You know, it's a timeless classic to say the least. Well, there's a part at the end where the music gets all weird and it kind of starts making some strange noises, and then very faintly, if you listen, you can hear a voice come in, and the conspiracy all those years ago was it was a voice saying, "I buried Paul."
So which would be a clue that Paul was dead.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. And so when I was a kid, when I first heard that in my room by myself and I played
creepy.
it scared the crap out of me. And I didn't want to listen to it again.
I can imagine. It is creepy when you hear it.
It is creepy. And then years later, as I did more research and interviews with John Lennon, he supposedly did not say that at all. He said cranberry sauce.
Which makes sense. Why?
It just was maybe they were just playing
that on purpose.
Exactly. They were playing with the fans, or they were just trying to throw that in there to screw people up, or maybe it was just something he decided to do and it came out sounding like that, along with the Beatles' other death clues. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it for you a few different ways, and this is the actual album version of this. Ooh. So we're going to play the 33 RPM version, which is the big record.
Okay.
And we're going to play it at normal speed. And we'll see what it sounds like.
Okay.
Then I'm going to play the large 33 record at 45 speed, which would speed the record up. It makes it sound faster, and then you tell me what you hear then.
Okay.
All right?
Good.
All right. I'm going to play it here in just a second. So that was the first one. That was normal speed. You could catch it right at the very end there.
Yeah.
This is sped up. All right.
Okay.
So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the 45 version
Okay.
at normal speed, and then I'm going to slow it down. All right?
Yep.
All right. Here we go. Oh, so you could hear something there.
Yeah.
All right, so this is slowed down. All right, what did you hear there?
I hear "I buried Paul." But,
Oh, you do?
But probably because you told me that's what he said.
Right. So
if I was hearing that for the first time with no reference, I wouldn't know what the hell.
okay,
he was
so
saying.
so going forward, the next songs that I'm gonna play, I'm not gonna tell you what they say first.
Oh God.
I'll just play them, and then we'll decipher it.
Okay.
Okay.
That sounds good.
All right.
What did you hear with that one?
So I always heard "I buried Paul."
Yeah.
But then the more I thought about it, and the more I started delving into like my own little home recording studio, and I could isolate the sound better.
Right.
It sounded to me like he said cranberry sauce.
Cranberry sauce.
And if you listen to the sped up version, and I can play that again here for you.
No, I believe you.
Yeah, no, it says it. It actually said to me. It sounds like he says cranberry sauce. So I don't know. It's really up for interpretation. It's one of those things that we'll never actually know.
No. Well,
Okay.
what did he? Was he asked specifically?
He was,
about
and he
this?
said cranberry sauce. That's what he said.
Oh no, you said that. Okay, but
Yeah.
but did he say why he said that? Or
No,
is-
I don't know if he elaborated too much on it. But
I see.
anyway, so one more Beatles song, and
Okay.
it's not. This one is more along the backward masking satanic front, if
See,
you will.
you don't really hear Beatles and Satanic too much mixed, except for there was speculation. I think we even discussed it on this program before with the Manson family and how he was supposedly getting messages from the Beatles from the White Album. And I actually read something, and I'm not sure if you probably would know because you're a Beatles guy, but supposedly the White Album is written in such a way in magical format. So like the words are like a spell supposedly, and the whole Beatles White Album is a magic spell.
Well, it is a magic spell if you're hitting the LSD really hard when you're listening to it. So here is from the White Album, and this is Revolution number 9, and this is just a portion of this where the guy says number 9 over and over again.
Okay.
And then when you play that backwards, it says something, but I'm not going to tell you what it says.
Okay.
I'm going to let you listen to
All
it.
right, I don't think I've ever heard this.
All right, hold on.
Number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9.
So that's forward, obviously.
Number 9, number
I like the
9.
number 9 at D'Angelo's.
So this is coming backwards. Listen. Yeah. What do you think that says?
I confess that I've heard this. I've heard what this supposedly says before. I don't hear what they say it is, though.
Okay.
I hear like, blah, 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 blah. I hear gibberish.
All right,
is
so
what
let
I
me.
hear.
This is not the. So there's other portions of this song that have a satanic twist to it, but I'm not going to play that part. We're just going to do this part right now.
Okay.
And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say supposedly what it says. I'm going to tell you. It supposedly says, "Turn me on, dead man.
What does that even mean?
Turn me on, dead man.
What does
Turn
that mean?
me on, dead man.
What does that mean?
Turn me on, dead man.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I didn't
Why
write
would
it.
that be interesting?
Hold on, I'm going to play it again. Turn me on, dead man. Turn me on, dead man. Hear it?
No, I hear what you're saying. I don't think that's what it's saying.
You
I
don't
think it's backwards gibberish.
No.
What does "Turn Me On, Dead Man" have anything to do with anything?
It's creepy.
No, it's creepy because you're listening to it backwards.
Can you imagine sitting in your room smoking a joint?
Well, you're paranoid anyway. You're smoking Gorilla Panic.
So you don't hear any of that in there.
No, I don't.
All right. So there's a funny bit. I'm going to give props to a guy named Steve Terberry. He's he has a YouTube channel. The guy is a guitar virtuoso. He like the metal riffs that he plays and the lead guitar and is amazing. And you look at the guy, he kind of looks like a dork.
Okay.
No offense, Steve. Your glasses.
He's not
You're
listening.
kind of goofy, but he's funny as hell and he plays some crazy guitar.
Okay.
But one of his videos, he did some of these songs and he played them backwards.
Okay.
And so he did an experiment where he recorded himself saying something and then played it backwards to see what it would sound like. And just like that, it was gibberish. So then he went ahead and recorded himself doing gibberish and then played it backwards to see if he could get coherent words out of it. And he didn't get it.
You know what all this stuff reminds me of, man?
What's that?
It reminds me of EVPs, electronic voice phenomenon, when it comes to paranormal investigations.
Sure.
Which we've had a lot of experience in that area, and we've heard live recordings, and we've been there for these recordings, and we've heard. I think the vast majority of EVPs is complete nonsense. I think that people hear what they want to hear. I think that it could be completely nonsensical. And the latest movement, and I'm not going to get into it too much. I know that this show isn't about that, but they've got this stupid thing now. Supposedly it's like a voice box or a ghost box or something, and it scans radio waves looking for messages that pertain to the questions you just asked the supposed spirit. So basically what you do is you turn this stupid scanner thingy on, and then you ask a question of supposedly a ghost that's supposedly there, lots of supposedlys in there, and that you'll get an answer. You get a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of gibberish words here and there, and people are like, oh, proof.
So I would agree with you on the I don't know anything about the voice box too much, but I can tell you with EVPs, just having firsthand experience with them, is that, yes, some of them are gibberish, some of them are subject to interpretation.
Sure.
But some of them are very clear and
I'm
very
with you.
specific
I'm
to
with you
what
that
they're saying.
There are some EVPs that I've heard that are completely believable and convincing because I know that no one did it because I was there.
Correct.
So I know that no one faked it. That anyway, but we can talk about that another time.
All right, fast forward to the 70s. Led Zeppelin, one of the greatest hard rock bands of all time.
Zeppelin.
A very mystical, spiritual band.
Yes.
They were, we talked earlier about in another show about how they were
Packed with the devil.
Aleister Crowley, they had a fascination with him.
Well, Jimmy Page did.
Right.
But yeah, one of the shows that we did previously, we did that Led Zeppelin did Led Zeppelin made a pact with the devil. Well, 3 of the members did to achieve notoriety and fame and success, and nothing but tragedy had befallen them after, with the exception of John Paul Jones, the bassist, who is still alive and kicking, running around. And the only reason he never had tragedy befall him was because he wasn't there for that magical ceremony.
That's right. So, the song "Stairway to Heaven" has a lot of supposed hidden meanings in it, with the words, the lyrics as they're written. And
Most requested song in radio history.
That's right. Remember how awkward that song was, dancing at the school dances in junior high.
It's not really a song because it starts off very slow, it gets very fast, and gets very slow again.
That's right, so and it goes on forever.
It goes, what is it, like 9 minutes?
It kind of winds on down the road.
Yeah, it goes on for a long time.
But anyway, so there's a lot of imagery on the album cover.
Now, this will be on Led Zeppelin 4, correct?
Yeah, and so supposedly, how it was like a double, you open the album and it like opens into a thing, and it has the little guy standing on the mountain with the little lantern.
Yes.
If you put a mirror up to that, supposedly you can get a Satan's head out of the mountain.
Yeah, and you know what, and it's funny that you mentioned it, because if you look into and I actually read a book called Hammer of the Gods, and it was about Led Zeppelin and their tours, and anyway, it gets into a little bit of how this all started, and it all started with Jimmy Page, who got in, as you said before, that he was into the occult. He bought Aleister Crowley's house, and got into spells and all this junk, and started putting all this in the album. As a matter of fact, Led Zeppelin 4 does not have any band name on it. It doesn't have any indication of that it's from Led Zeppelin. And each one of the band members had a magical symbol instead of their name on it. And if you look at it, supposedly each one of the symbols has a magical origin, with the exception of Jimmy Page's, which he had stolen from an old magic book. Anyway, make a long story short, I think it was John Paul Jones who said, "I just picked it randomly out of a book. I have no idea what it meant."
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned that, because there was the Zoso symbol,
yeah.
which you can look that up if you want. And that freaked me out, because this was right around the time we were going to school, and I saw the symbol.
Yeah.
And then I'm in church, and there were all these elaborate paintings.
Yeah.
And it was up on the ceiling of the church.
Yeah.
That same symbol. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't remember that specifically.
It was there. Yeah, it's there, because it's like an old
It's something. It's something.
spiritual symbol of some
Anyway.
kind. But anyway, so we're going to go into Stairway to Heaven.
Which it bears mentioning.
Yes.
So the song itself is full of symbolism if you listen to it normally. It's
Sure.
it's an allegory. It's about a person's journey through life and what happens after they die and all sorts of stuff. And if you listen to the lyrics, you could take that to mean what you wish, but there's symbolism in it already.
Right. So I'm going to play the clip in question. I'm going to play it like I did before. I'm going to play it forwards.
Okay.
Then we're going to play it backwards. You tell me what you think it says, and then I'll read what it says.
All right.
All right?
Let's do it.
All right, let's go.
Yes, there are 2 paths you can go by, but in the long run, there's still time to change the road you're on.
All right, so that's the lyrics in question. Here it comes, backwards. All right, so now it's going to play even slower now.
Okay.
You getting this?
Yeah.
All right, did you get that?
Yeah. So I clearly hear.
Yes.
I hear the word Satan
Okay.
a couple of times.
Okay.
And I heard 666.
Oh, you did.
But
All right.
everything else is complete nonsense.
Do you want me to read it to you?
Sure.
Let me read it to you, to put the suggestion in your
This is
head,
supposedly what it just said.
and then I'm going to play it again, okay? It says,
okay.
So here's to my sweet Satan, the one whose little path would make me sad, whose power is Satan. He'll give you 666. There was a little tool shed where he made us suffer, sad Satan.
Why would Satan make you suffer in a tool shed?
Why not? Hold on, I'm going to play it for you again so you can decipher it. So here's to my sweet Satan. The one whose little path would make me sad, whose power is Satan. He'll give you 666. There was a little tool shed where he made us suffer, sad Satan. Does it sound like that now that I say it?
No.
It doesn't?
No, I hear, like I said, I heard Satan a couple times. I heard 666.
Okay.
That's all I got out of that.
What do you make of all this?
I think it's nonsense. I think it's complete nonsense. I think it's, if anything, it's a coincidence.
How would anybody find that though? Like,
That's
how
what
would
I'm
you
saying.
even know
Somebody
that was
must have
there?
sat there and listened to it in slow mo, and like, I think if you listen to Perry Como's greatest hits backwards, you'd make out certain sounds that sound like, you could make it sound like whatever. It could be a recipe for a chili. Who knows?
Okay. So the next song, one of the most satanic, most evil bands that you could ever imagine.
Hanson?
Close. The Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles, yes. When
Yes.
I think of death metal, I think of the Eagles.
Yes, so their famous song, Hotel California,
Yes.
is another one, supposedly, that the lyrics themselves are filled with
Well,
messages.
it's funny that you mentioned this song because my wife, bless her soul, well, she's not dead, she's with us.
Oh, my God.
But anyway,
Yes.
she is. She grew up in a very religious family, and that song in particular was banned from her home because they said it was satanic.
Really?
in nature, yes.
Oh.
Which I don't particularly get, but anyway.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, that was the rumor back in the day that the song itself had satanic
Well, just because something
reasons to it.
discusses somebody being in hell or like, I don't. That doesn't necessarily make it satanic, does it?
I don't know.
It's just discussing it.
All right, so I'm gonna once again I'm gonna play the
All
main
right.
part of the song that you know,
Okay.
that you could all probably sing along to, and then I'm gonna reverse it for you, and you tell me what you think. Okay?
Sounds.
There she stood in the doorway, heard the mission bell. I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven and this could
Oh, see, you said heaven and hell right there.
Oh, that's
satanic.
It. That's it.
lit up a candle, and she showed me the way. There were voices down the corridor. I thought I heard them say, "Welcome to the Hotel California."
All right, here comes the first portion of the reversed part of it.
Yes, oh, and why is this over with? Yeah, what do you know?
Oh, this was good. This is a good one. Hold on, I'm gonna.
What the hell was that?
I'm gonna play it for you again here in just a second. Hold on, here it comes. You ready?
Yep.
Wait till I read this one. All right.
I clearly heard
Yes.
that.
Did
it
you
said,
hear any words? Be honest.
Meatballs is delicious. No, I thought I heard something say delicious.
It did say delicious.
Oh, well, that's what I heard.
All right. So here's what it says.
I've not heard this before.
Here's what it says supposedly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Satan had him. Oh, he organized his own religion. Yeah, when he knows he shouldn't. At night, it was delicious. Oh, yeah, he puts it in a vat. He mixes it for his sound booth, and he gives it away. He gives away. All right?
Let me ask you a question.
What?
If someone were to be so inclined to include satanic messages in
Yes.
their music,
Yes.
wouldn't they just tell you, like, worship Satan and don't go to church?
No,
'cause
this
that's
is way
bad.
more fun.
No, why would you add stuff about sound booths and
Well, they're in the music business.
that makes no sense.
Hold on, I'm going to play it for you again. I'm going to read
Oh,
along,
my
all right? Hold
God.
on. Here we go. Yeah, Satan had him. Oh, he organized his own religion. Yeah, when he knows he shouldn't. At night it was delicious. Oh yeah, he puts it in a vat. He makes it in his sound booth. He gives away. What do you think?
No, I think that's hogwash.
Really?
Like, that's complete hogwash.
You know, I think I agree with that 100%.
I think that has nothing to do with anything.
You don't?
People are grasping at straws.
So you know what I didn't understand? What I don't understand? And maybe I should research it a little more.
Yes.
How would you reverse
I don't know.
a thing? Now is it?
You'd
Is
have
it the
to say
is it-
certain words.
Okay, so is it the real words reversed,
Yeah.
or is it them going back and doing something in reverse?
Well, if I was to do it, I would have to assume that you'd have to say certain words that when you play it backwards, say something else. So like you would construct your lyrics
Yes.
to do that. You can't. There's no other way to do it.
Mm.
You can't just add it in there.
I don't know.
I don't know. This whole thing is ridiculous.
Could you do it on a CD? You think?
No, I don't know. All I know is that after listening to this guy's presentation back in the day,
Yeah.
I was convinced that that Satan was everywhere, that he was in the music, and I was afraid. And this is right around the time too. Right in high school, I started listening to Metallica
Yes.
and Megadeth and
Yes.
stuff like that. And I think part of the reason I started listening to those is because it was rebellious, and I knew that that the parents didn't like it and everything like that. So that's why I started listening to it.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I much along the same lines as what you just said. But I was paranoid too. I saw Satan in everything at that
Everywhere,
point, right?
yes,
I looked in
yes.
my Cheerios and I saw Satan. So what I tried to do to counteract that, and I'm revealing this to the world now.
Uh-oh.
I perpetuated and perpetrated a fraud upon the kids of St. Joseph's Catholic School.
Uh-oh. What'd you do?
In 6th grade. I created a Christian metal band. I formulated it in my mind.
Okay.
And I created this whole history and biography and
This is
discography
the first time I've heard of this.
of this band. I created the name and everything, and I was going around telling people this was the greatest Christian band of all time, and they were a rock and roll band. And
And this is before the internet, so nobody could easily tell.
that's right. And you know what the band's name was?
No.
I invented it. I don't even know where it came from. I still remember.
What is it?
It was called Gladitin.
What is it?
Gladitin.
Gladitin?
Yes.
What the hell does that mean?
I don't know.
It sounds like a kind of saran wrap.
And I created.
I
its
wrapped
own,
it in Gladitin.
I created its own symbols, and I created a list of their tracks of their songs.
Well,
and
no, you know, there were Christian metal bands at the time. It was Stryper,
Striper was one.
Petra.
Yeah,
There's a few more.
yeah, they weren't any good though.
No. Stryper had one hit, and I remember then Honestly was the name of the song.
Okay, can you sing it?
Honestly. Just something along
That's
those lines.
pretty satanic, actually.
Anyway, well, that's interesting that you came up with that to counteract the forces of evil.
That's right.
Did anyone ask? Did you make your own album covers and stuff?
I was attempting to, but at the time, that was before Photoshop or anything like that. So I only had one of those Kodak disc cameras,
Oh yes,
and it just wasn't working out for me. But
that's too bad.
anyway,
If you want to hear a movie, if you ever want to watch a movie about music that has magical properties, and just stop off the top of my head, there was a movie came out recently from Rob Zombie called The Lords of Salem. Horrible piece of psychotropic crap.
Oh.
It's like somebody was on drugs and said, "Let's make a Satan movie," and they did, and it was horrible.
Wasn't
don't,
good, huh?
No.
Okay.
And you know what? I changed my mind. Don't watch it.
all right. So I have two more quick ones.
Okay.
Two more quick secret messages in songs. All right.
Let's do it.
So the next one is a band called Styx.
Oh, Styx, yes.
And Styx had played a big role in the Joe Vieira
Yes, they did.
presentation.
Yes, they did.
And why did they? Do you remember?
Well, they weren't considered. Styx was not like a heavy band.
They weren't.
They were more like a pop band, right?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like a heavy metal act.
No.
It was kind of more like the Eagles kind of deal.
Well,
like
Styx did "Come Sail Away,"
they did.
and that's their signature song.
They did. But their band name Styx itself.
Oh well, the river Styx.
Exactly.
Yes, I'm familiar with
Supposedly
the
goes through-
mythology. Yes.
Goes through Hades, which
Yes,
is hell.
the river, and you have to pay the ferryman to take you across. And
That's
all
right.
all that stuff.
That's right. So that was Joe Vieira's first clue right there. Was it was called Styx.
Okay.
So he started going off on a tangent about how satanic they were.
Yeah, because you know what? No one has ever said, "Hey, we're out here in the sticks," talking about like in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Anyway,
So this is a quick one. But anyway, so they're from their hit song Snowblind.
Snowblind.
That's right. So we're gonna play that clip for you here just now, and then you can decipher it. This is a short one.
Okay.
Life's not pretty, even though I try so hard to.
It's actually a cool song.
Get so, oh, Satan moves
hear it? Listen.
I heard Satan.
Yeah.
I heard that.
He goes, Satan moves through our voices.
No, it didn't say that.
Yeah, it did say that.
No.
It did.
No. It said Satan.
Satan moves through our voices. Keep that in your mind.
Okay.
And I'll play it again. Satan moves through our voices. Got it?
It didn't say voices.
It
It
says
said
Satan moves through our voices.
just like that. No, that's a stretch, man.
That's a stretch?
Yeah, I don't believe that one.
All right. Well, that concludes the satanic ones. I have one more that I'm going to play for you.
Okay.
This is more of a modern hit, but let's recap the satanic thoughts on this.
Okay.
Go ahead.
What do you mean recap them?
Well, your thoughts on the whole thing.
My thoughts are, I think that when this initially started, I think that bands probably started experimenting with maybe putting weird sounds to make people think, to purchase their, this was back before the internet.
Sure.
So if you wanted to listen to a band's album to figure out if they were backwards messages, you'd have to purchase it.
Right.
So that would be a way of increasing your sales. Now you could go on YouTube or whatever and listen to people's stuff. So it's not the same thing. As far as if they actually put satanic, I think no. I don't think that was an actual thing. I think they probably do now.
Yeah.
Or, with the advent of all the technology and stuff, they probably do. Maybe somebody does. I don't know. But I don't think it was back in the day.
There's actually so Weird Al Yankovic had a fun time with
I
this.
love Weird Al, man.
So he did a song where
Weird
he
Al's
actually
awesome.
did the thing where he did gibberish forwards, and then when you reversed it, it said Satan eats cheese whiz or something like that. But anyway, we know Weird Al's fun.
Weird Al, actually, I really enjoyed Weird Al. I had all of his tapes. I was, back in the cassette tape days, had all of his tapes. And I follow him on Twitter, and I noticed that recently he announced a world tour.
Oh.
And I was actually thinking about potentially purchasing tickets if he came this way, until I figured out that he was playing all original crap from that he just wrote. It has nothing. They're not parodies.
He's actually quite the musician.
No, he is. He plays accordion very famously and stuff like that. But it's all the songs he was playing on this tour are not the parody songs of the past.
All right. So the last hidden message of the day goes back to the seminal classic,
Did you say seminal?
1999 timeless classic, "Hit Me Baby One More Time" by
My
Britney
God,
Spears.
I had the biggest crush on Britney Spears in
And-
1999.
And yeah, so that was back then, and so the video
my
itself
God.
is very, and the song itself is
Very catchy.
very has sexual undertones.
Of course it does.
So there's a very famous reversed portion of the song
Ooh.
that she says something very naughty. So
I wanna
I'm gonna-
hear it.
I'm going to play it for you here.
I'm going to get excited here.
All right, hold on a second. You all know this part.
Oh, I love this part.
All right, here, the reverse part's coming up here. Just a second. Here we go. All right, did you catch it?
No.
You didn't catch it?
I
You
did
want?
not.
I'll play it again, and then you see if you can catch it that time, and then I'll tell you
All
what
right.
it says. So this first part isn't anything. It's at the end. Did you catch it right at the end?
I sleep by myself with stuffed animals.
No, it says "Sleep with me." I'm
I
not
heard
too.
sleep.
It says "Sleep with me." I'm not too young.
Get out of here.
I swear. Listen to it again. Hold on.
I heard sleep.
You hear it?
Now that you said that, I can kind of make that out
Yeah.
a little bit.
There it is. So yeah. So
I
that
don't-
was very sexual in nature.
I don't think Britney Spears in 1999 needed to add subliminal messages to encourage people to want to have sex with her. I think that was probably something that most men wanted to do anyway.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, but how old were you then, though? Were you?
I was a young man. I was still a young man. I was,
And how old was she at the time?
She was an adult.
She was?
Yes.
I think she was only a teenager.
Oh, stop it. In 2000?
yeah.
No.
No, 99. I think she was like
No, she was like
14.
No, she was not.
She was it?
No, she was an adult.
I'll have to do a little research on that.
We're gonna find that.
Don't
out.
you think we're gonna have to do some research
I
on
think
that?
we're gonna have to look at some pictures.
All right, so
find out.
it's okay, but it's just thoughts, right?
It's just thoughts, no actions.
Whoa.
What the hell is that?
What was that?
Just scared me. I just dropped my headphones.
Oh, it was Satan coming through the wires.
He's upset with what we're doing.
All right, so let's wrap this one up.
Anyway, well, it was a good program. We talked about some supposed messages in music, things of that sort.
Yeah, it was a little different. It was fun.
If we were famous musicians,
Sure.
would we include backwards messages?
I
would.
I would include.
Sure.
I would include secret. Oh,
I would
just-
encourage people to send me money.
Just real quick, kind of along the same line. So I'm a big fan, a Tool fan, right?
Oh yes.
So
we know you
they're-
like the Tool.
That's right. So their what was it, 1993 classic album, Sober.
Sober.
If you take the CD and you
It's got some sort of red thing on.
yeah,
the
but
front
if you took like I took it apart when I was a kid, I took the CD parts apart, like the inside
Yeah.
part, and there was like a secret picture of a guy in there, and or of a pig on forks, and it was like some other weird.
Well, you know,
pictures.
Tool. But well, this is a subject for another day, maybe. But Tool is one of those bands, and it's become popular now. But hidden tracks on their albums, so you have to listen to the whole thing, and then listen for a few minutes of dead air, and then
Yeah.
another song, another hidden track would come on, stuff like that.
That was how I found. So I was a big Stained fan back in the late
Oh,
90s,
Stained,
early
yes.
2000s, and I was listening to their album Dysfunction from start to finish, the CD, and I let the last track finish, and I didn't realize it was still playing. And same thing, there was like 20 minutes of dead air, and then all of a sudden a song came on, a hidden song. That was Excess Baggage.
Oh yeah,
That was the very first time I heard that, the acoustic version of
Good
that.
song.
So that was cool. But anyway,
Interesting.
So wrapping it up, that was a good musical satanic show.
yeah. We got a new sponsor.
We get a new
Well,
sponsor.
a new old sponsor.
Yeah, Frank's back and better than ever.
Yep.
And
Can't wait to patronize his new business.
we're looking for some special guests too coming up in the next few weeks.
Yep, we got a couple of requests in. If you want to get in touch with us, send us an email. Please send us an email. We would love to hear from
And
you.
if we said anything wrong, correct us.
Yeah.
because I'm sure we did.
You can get a hold of us at TheEoNProject@yahoo.com. That's TheEonProject@yahoo.com. Also on Twitter, very active on. Well, haven't been active on Twitter lately, but if you want to reach out to us on Twitter, get a hold of us. Tell a friend about the show. We got some new listeners up in the North Shore, Massachusetts, north of Boston. Revere, what's up, Revere?
Yo.
Yo, Revere Beach. I'm wearing my wingtips down to the beach. Oh. Anyway,
All right. Once again, just remember, until next time, the truth exists. Believe it.